absolutely fine. The next thing I'm going to do is just start this. Okay, we'll go back to this brush. This is really fun. This is a nice painting. It's just nice and fun. I'm going to go back into this dark mix. Magenta, phthalo blue, and some burnt sienna. Now I might even take a touch of black. Let's try black for the first time. I'm going for a nice blacky pinky kind of a colour. And the hint of burnt sienna just warms it ever so slightly. I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to bring this down. You see the way this kind of flicks down here? Go along, bring it down, and then it sort of fizzles out, and it kind of almost disappears into the water, doesn't it? Let's just soften it away into the water, like that. Okay? And then I'm going to take magenta and phthalo blue. And I want to put that rich deep purple right up here, look. Just got to get nice and dark around the top of some of that, and then soften it down. I'm using the corner of my brush just to kind of soften the colour out, okay? And I'm coming down and I'm flicking it out. Remember that. Here and there. Okay, now you probably can't see that. It might look very black on camera, and I appreciate that. But when I'm finished this, I'll photograph this and put it up, and you will see the colours properly. If you want to screenshot this, you will see the colours a lot better. Now I'm going to go into a pink. So magenta into that with some white, and maybe a touch of blue. And I'm just going to use this pinky colour to first go along here. Okay. And then soften it into this brown here, bringing all them together nice and soft, look. Then I'll pick up some phthalo blue, go right into phthalo blue with that, and a little touch of magenta, a bit more blue this time, you see. I'm going to use that blue, maybe a bit more magenta, it's a bit bluey, isn't it? And I'm going to use that to fill in this area. And again, it softens the way off into the water, doesn't it? Okay. Again, remember, this is just the filling in stage. This is all filling in the colour. Okay, it looks very rough, doesn't it, on the photograph? It's very sort of, there's lots going on and all this kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is take a very dark colour, some black, some blue, and a touch of magenta, let's say. And I'm just going to soften some dark in here and out into the water out here, just to help sort of make that wave disappear out into the water. You see the way it just sort of stops and it disappears out. So I want to create that effect with just some black and magenta, and I'm tapping it every now and then, just tap, 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 and swing it left and right, just to allow that to disappear. You can even then go into some magenta with burnt sienna, add some of that in. It's all about adding colour, picking up little colours here and there and adding them in. Okay, a little bit of magenta there, go out here and let's just soften this across into the light. What I generally try to do in oil painting is soften colours out, soften them together, so you don't want to end up with two different sections of dark colours and light colours. I much rather soften them together like this, so they kind of, you can see them merge from one to the other just nicely. I find that just, it looks softer on the eye. It's much more pleasing to look at, I think. So I'm just going to go along like this now, soften that again, little few darks here and there. Okay, I'm done with the bulk of this wave now. The next part is all this lovely light bluey foam and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to switch brushes. I need to get a nice flat brush. Something like this will do fine. Okay, so number 12 flat, nice and flat. And I'm going to start putting in some of the highlights of the shadows. Now that's a tricky term because people assume shadows are just dark, but they're not. Shadows can be a light blue. So I'll show you what I mean. I'll take some phaylo blue, some white. So this is basically a light blue foam in shadow of the sun. So it becomes a kind of a mauvey blue, a deep mauvey blue. I'll show you what I mean. So whatever you do, don't put just white, okay? They're not going to be white because it's a sunset, and the sunset reflects colours onto whatever it's reflecting onto. So a soft bluey, pinky colour is always best. You see? I'm just going to flick this colour around here and there. And to be honest, I'm not even looking at the reference photograph now. You might think I am, but I'm not too much. I'm kind of going my own, putting my own touch on all of this. I think it makes for a much more interesting and pleasant learning experience, don't you? I'm just going to kind of swish this around like a load of snakes. That's probably the best term to use. Lots of little snakes. And use a little touch of thinners as well. That will make a big difference. Okay, bit of pink, bit of white, little touch of blue. And I'm going to go like this. Look, lots of little wiggly lines. That's generally what you kind of get sometimes when you're looking at water breaking in by the beach. You get all these little wiggly lines sometimes, and it's probably the easiest way to create moving water by a beach. Now you will need to keep doing this to get the effect you want, because as you can see, the colour mixes very fast, doesn't it? So keep doing this and keep mixing fresh colour. And just be patient. It will happen, just be patient. You just need to be patient with this. It's not going to happen immediately. It may take an hour, it may take 10 minutes, whatever, but just take your time and try not to expect it to look beautiful instantly. So I'm slowly building up my layers, very, very slowly. Now, a bit of light pink, and I'm going to go out here and just put a little bit of light pink along the top of those, and then let that disappear outwards again. I'm going to put some along the top of the wave as well. Just little dabs with the brush here and there. Okay, not too much, just as you can see, it's kind of picking up little highlights. And they're only small highlights, but you will notice them. See? Small highlights. I've cleaned my brush just to keep it nice and clean. The next thing I'm going to do is start putting in some of this rough foam here. I'm going to mix phaylo blue with some white And I have a nice pretty thick colour here now, it's pretty thick, and some magenta. So it's a warm blue, a nice warm shade of blue. And I'm simply going to go like this. Now you're going to see immediately this mixes with the colour underneath. So I just give my brush a rub on some tissue. I'm just going to go back into my paint again. And I'm simply going around in little circles. It's very, very messy, isn't it? You can see it's here, there and everywhere, isn't it? Just small little circles with your brush, you see? And I know you're probably thinking that it looks very, very messy, doesn't it? And yes, it does. It looks like a big mess of colour. But don't you worry, we will get there. The next thing to do is to put in some darks. So now we have some nice brights here. I'm going to put in some nice shadowed areas. This is where it gets interesting. You will see begin to come to life. Magenta, phthalo blue, a little touch of black perhaps. But I'm putting in plenty of magenta. Maybe a touch of burnt umber for the first time. So I have a very blacky, purpley kind of a colour. I'm just going to put in some shadows on this. Now, to be honest, I'm not looking at the reference photograph again. I'm just popping in a few shadows very randomly here and there. It's so random, it really is. It's just to get some shade in here and there. And as it comes to the side, I'm simply going to just wiggle. I'm just going to wiggle the brush like this to allow it to just disappear out, you see? A lot of this is trial and error. I'm just trying to see if something works. Now the next stage is to really make all of this kind of pop, right? So I'm just firstly going to soften this in with my brush just to lose the brush strokes. Then I'm going to put on some rich bright blue, and that's going to really make all of the tips of the waves pop and jump out. Watch and I'll show you. Okay, let me just soften some of this in. It's just a couple of shadows, that's all. Okay, clean brush. I'll go with phthalo blue and lots of white. And a touch of magenta, tiniest touch. Let's go. I know it's not the same colour as the photograph, but I really don't mind. I'm going to come down like this, creating the shape of the wave coming down, okay? And then disappearing off. Now it's starting to brighten up, isn't it? Okay, again, I'll go here, bringing it down. I'm kind of kissing the top edges of the wave where it's turning and crashing. That's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of catching the edges and wiggling my brush around in little circles. Now this takes time. It's not going to happen immediately. As I keep saying, it'll take time. But just keep adding little touches. Don't overdo this too soon because it will get very messy. So just be careful in that respect. Don't be tempted to just go in and cover it all very, very quickly. Even me sometimes would do that. I would kind of go overboard, sometimes forget what I'm doing and just kind of really go for it. And it's very difficult to take the paint off after it's on. Does that make sense? So for that reason, I would say just do little bits at a time and just stop and look at what you're doing. Just be patient, take your time. Now as it comes down to the back here, it just sort of disappears, it kind of fizzles out, doesn't it? Now I'm just going to go over here, add a little bit of light colour along here. Now I need to darken it just at the bottoms. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to take some black, some magenta, and some burnt sienna. I'm just going to darken this. You see where it meets the sand, just, you see how it comes in and meets the sand? I'm just going to darken this along there, just along that edge, just to get the outline of what I want first, okay? And once I have that in, I can then begin to blend these up into some of those waves. Now this may be, I know I'm probably making this quite difficult, but you know, take your time, and you're never going to get it perfect. You know, it's never going to look the same. It might look better than mine, it might not, but take your time, and it's all about if you're learning something. That's what I would say. It's about, are you learning something as you're going along? Now there's still another process to do in this. I'm just first going to soften this. I'm just going to dab it very gently, just to soften it out, okay? Very gently. So you see, we're not governed by what we have under already. We can soften away if we like. I need to do a bit of work down here, and for that I'm going to get a small pointy brush. Now, small pointy brush. I'm going to start just putting some real bright highlights down around here. I'll take some magenta, plenty of white, and a little touch of blue perhaps. Again, a little touch of blue is no harm. I'll go with a pinky shade first. I am going to go along here and just pop in. Again, lots of these little snakes. You see those little snakes that you get? Very wiggly little lines. Now this will take a little bit of time. This is probably the slowest part of the painting for me. So I'm just going to go along and pop these. Again, add plenty of thinners into this, because a thinner paint like this will stick much, much easier onto a thicker paint. I'm going to get a smaller brush. I need a very small, pointy, detailed brush. And I know I have a couple around here somewhere. It's just trying to find them is the problem, because I tend to put brushes down and forget. There we go. A nice thin, pointy brush. There we go. Now this should work a bit better. Okay. I'm just going to go along and put a lot of these little wiggles here and there. Now this will be tricky because as you can see, I'm mixing into the paint which is already there, and that's why people say, you know, it's difficult to get it right, and you know, all that. It takes time, but slowly, bit by bit, you'll get there. Just keep at it. As they say, patience is a virtue, isn't it? I'm just trying to get all of this with the tip of the brush. And as they go up, then they just kind of disappear off, don't they? It disappears out into the ocean. You can see I'm just trying to be very random with this. Now I'm also going to take a dark colour. So I'm going to take some phaylo blue with some magenta, and I'm going to pop some real dark colours in there as well around some of those. So a little of that, nice dark colour, and go in around some of those as well, look. Because some of these will have a little bit of a shadow being cast on them by the sun. So a couple of darks here and there always helps. Don't be afraid of those darks, okay? So you can kind of see now what I'm trying to kind of get at. Just making it look very, very busy. That can be the trickiest part of a painting. And what I say to people is, I'm not painting detail, I'm just creating the impression of lots of detail. That's all I like. That's what I like to do, create the impression. So when you look at a painting, you think there's a lot of detail in that painting, but in reality, it's just lots of little brush strokes with your pointy brush. You know what I mean? In reality. I'll just pop a little bit of dark in there and soften it in. I'm not finished these, by the way. I still have a bit of highlighting to do on some of those as well, so not to worry. And I'm going to come up here and just pop a few darks down there as well. Now, I'm going to just highlight some of the waves, some of that crashing wave there. It needs to be highlighted a bit. It's kind of disappearing a little bit much into the background, isn't it? So let's get some white, and let's try us a little bit of pink. Okay, a bit of white with a pink. Let's get a nice bright pink. Maybe a touch of cadmium yellow. And I'm just going to highlight some of them. And I'm just simply kind of going along some of the tips of them and just popping little highlights here and there, just to bring them out slightly. I'll do one or two up here. Again, remember, it's just about making something look like there's lots of detail there when there may not be. It's just lots of little marks. That's kind of what I always say to people. Just lots of little marks makes the eye think there's lots of detail there, but it's not detail. If you look closely, it doesn't look like a bit of a wave or foam or whatever. It's just little touches with the brush, really. Now you may have your own way of doing all of this, and please, yes, by all means, if you have an easier way and a nicer way of doing all this, do use that technique. I'm just trying to kind of simplify this for you viewers and help you along. That's all. That's all I'm trying to do. Now, I'm just going to soften some of them. A bit of an accident there, a bit of green paint. That's it, there we go. But you know, you can keep going with as little or as much of this as you like. It's entirely up to you. If you're halfway through what I have done and you're happy, then brilliant. You can leave it and come back. It's absolutely perfect. You can, you know, you don't have to keep going if you're worried about ruining your painting. Now, I'm going to take a little black and just pop a little dark in around some of these. Once the water, or once the beach goes in as well, you are going to notice a little difference. It will soften. It will soften back in more. So bear with me. I'm going to put in the sand. I'm going back to my big brush, taking some Naples yellow, some magenta, and some burnt sienna. Let's have a look. Let's pop in the beach. This is just lots of wet paint now. I'm not using very thick paint on this, because again, it is just a base colour. More burnt sienna, more magenta. They really are a beautiful colour, aren't they? Magenta and burnt sienna. They're just so versatile. You could use this in any kind of a painting you like, and it would give you just the most beautiful colours. Now, just going up, softening this across into those waves. Look, I'm even up here as well. There we go. Now a bit more burnt sienna and a bit of burnt umber and some magenta. I'm just going to darken it as it comes down here. And then again, soften it out. Magenta and a touch of black. Pick up a bit more black there, and perhaps a bit of blue, a bit of magenta. Let's go with all different shades of colour in here. Nice dark colour, down at the corner, soften it across, and let's just bring it up slightly. And this just really gives a bit of depth to the sand. That's all it's doing. Now I'll take my soft blender brush, and I'm going to soften that together first, bringing it right over into the water up there. Okay. Then I'm going to put in some nice bright colour. Now I still want to add a little bit of colour in here for the sun. So I'm thinking, let me just get some magenta on my palette. If I took a touch of magenta, some cadmium yellow, and some white. Should we try some of this? So let's come right under our sun. Pop some of that down like that. Now that's actually not a bad colour, is it? That is not a bad colour at all. Okay, it may be slightly mustardy, but if we add a bit more magenta into it, it's actually not that bad, is it? Gives a bit of bright colour to the sand. Okay, let's try again. Magenta, cadmium yellow, and some white. No. There is something I am going to do with this sun down here. I am going to take a little magenta with some Naples yellow and a touch of cadmium yellow, and I need some fresh white. You see how dirty my white is getting there? It's getting very dirty, isn't it? Let's just pop some fresh white on the palette. I know this has been probably quite a messy painting, but you know, I kind of tend to get carried away sometimes. I'm just going to take some of that with some cadmium yellow, and what I'm going to do is just take some of this bright colour and just drag it down. Just there, drag it down. I'm going to use that up here as well, just to create a little light on the water. So just that little touch of cadmium yellow in there brightens it all up, doesn't it? Okay, I mean that's not bad now, is it? Soften it out slightly. Then, using my fan brush, just sort of my blender brush, let's just soften this down. That gives a nice little effect, doesn't it? Now I'm also going to switch to my other palette knife here, and I am going to add a little brightness to all that foam. Again, a bright colour. I'm just going to go like this, look. With that palette knife, I'm just basically trying to create some nice texture on these. That's all I'm trying to do. So with your palette knife, I'm just going to go along in little circles. And do you know what? That's not a bad effect, is it? Tell me what you think. Sure, isn't this all about learning and having real fun? Isn't that what it's all about, my friends? And if we can't do that, if we can't have a bit of fun and learn, then really, what's the point? Really, what is the point? So look, we are almost there. I'll just put a little couple of highlights here and there, some of these waves. Again, I need to put a little bit of a dark colour just in under some of these, just again to separate them from the sand a little. You see what I mean? Just a little. Just to give it a bit of a crisp edge to it, that's all. And I don't think that's too bad at all, my friends. I don't think that's bad. It's just about having a bit of fun. It's only, look, I didn't want to go into too much detail with this tutorial. I could quite happily sit here for another 2 hours adding little touches to this painting, you know. As I show you, no, I could just sit here for hours, but I just wanted to kind of show you and encourage you to try something maybe a little more difficult for you. It may be a little bit more on the tricky side, but I think it's good just to push yourself that little bit more every now and then. It just encourages you to try and see what happens. What's the worst that can happen? Really, it's only a bit of paint. Don't be shy. And I am fairly happy with that. My last job is to put a little, I'm going to put a small bird up in the sky, just for a silhouette. Now you could put someone standing as a silhouette as well. I think a small bird up in the sky. Will I or won't I? Am I going to spoil it? I probably will spoil it. I'm going to leave it, my friends. I might just tip away with some of this for a while. But in general, I don't want to keep you any longer. You're probably getting fed up of looking at this now at this stage, so I'm going to bid you farewell and happy painting, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me. It has been awesome having you here. It really has. I feel like I'm sitting next to you all and we're just chatting amongst ourselves, having some fun painting. That's what it feels like sometimes, I'll be quite honest. I just love the fact that I can help or even encourage someone just to try. For me, that's all, that makes it all worth it for me. So my friends, thank you so much. Let me just unlock this now and tell you, have a beautiful day. I hope you've enjoyed it. If it's been a little bit too complicated, I apologise, but I tend to get kind of bogged down as well sometimes myself. So I will probably just tip away with this, add little soft touches here and there, maybe soften some of it back, maybe add some pebbles to the beach or something like that, just something small. But in general, I think it's quite nice. It's all about the colour and how it catches your eye. Thank you so much. Happy painting, my friends. Let me know what you think. And I'll be back very, very soon with another tutorial. God bless, and I'll see you soon. Take care.